Hi and welcome to another tutorial. In today's lesson we will learn all about SQL and we will look at the pet owners examples. So anyways guys, let's jump in. So the first thing that we need to do here is we need to figure out what we need to search for. So we need to write an SQL query that will show the owner's first name, surname, email, and their dog's name, as well as their date of birth, and only include the pet type, which is a dog. And then what we need to do is we need to sort the result by the pet's name. So once we have that information, now we can move on into the database creation. So the first thing that you will need to do is you will need to create the owners table. So the owners table will have a primary ID of the owner ID, and the example is OWN001. We need to have the first name, which is going to be short text. We need to have the surname, which again is going to be short text. We need to have the phone number, which again is going to be short text because it starts with a 0. We're going to have the address as short text. We are going to have the email address as a short text. And we are going to move on to the pets table. Now this table will be linked by the owner's primary key. So in this table, the pet ID is the primary key here, e.g. PET001. We're going to have the pet name and we are going to have the pet type. For the type, we are going to do a drop-down menu where there are only going to be two options, dog or cat. And then we are also going to do the same thing for gender. So we are going to make sure that we only have two options there. We also need to have the owner ID in here so that we can do our relationships. Now let's fill it up with some data. So OWN001 is going to have all the data related to them, and we're just going to fill it in with a few different types of records. But you will notice the primary key will always go up and be unique. That is the whole point of a primary key. Then what I'm doing is I'm just changing the font here to make it look a little bit nicer. You can change the font once and it will affect the entire table here. I'm only going to stay with 3 tables here because I don't want too much data on this side. On the other side, we are going to enter some information for pets. Now you can see that the type is a drop-down box, just like the gender. And so now I have different types of animals, as well as I have different genders for animals. And again, I'm only going to be putting in 3 different entries in here. The next and the most important thing is the relationships. So you need to relate the owner's ID to the owner's ID, and you need to make sure that you enforce referential integrity. Now let's move on to the actual SQL. So the first part of the SQL, we need to select all the fields that were required. So in doing this, I'm writing the owners table dot first name, which now will represent where the table comes from, as well as the fields. So we need things like the first name, surname, the email, the pet name, and the date of birth. Where are we getting this stuff from? We're getting it from the owners table as well as the pets table. So now when you run that, you can see that that is actually working at the moment. So that is pretty good. So this is where we need to make sure that we are removing the duplicate entries by making sure that we set up the owners table.owner ID is equal to the pets table.owner ID, and the type is equal to dog. And so when you do that, that's pretty much the SQL query done. All we need to do is sort it by the pet name, and that will already be in ascending fashion. So anyways guys, thanks for watching this short tutorial. Hope you learned something.